Tonight, I would like to share a story that I heard from a very, very wise man. But before I do, I just want to say that this week's Joy of Gratitude has been sponsored in memory of Al Zaidi, a wonderful Zaidi, my wonderful father-in-law, Daniel Svi Avraham Ben Ishaya. It's his first yurt site. And any learning, any growth, or any happiness that comes from this session should be in his merit. So here's the story. In fact, it's a well-known story. You may have even heard it from me at other times. Here goes. There was once a man whose job was to patrol the top of one of these tall skyscrapers. And the reason that was his job was because, unfortunately, on a regular basis, people would climb to the top of that tower and jump off. And therefore, this particular tower employed somebody to stand there to try and persuade people not to jump. On one particular occasion, as this man is patrolling the top of the tower, he sees somebody there, literally, ready to jump, and he runs over to him and says, wait, what's the problem? Why are you jumping? And the man says, you don't understand. You don't understand what I've been through all my life. I was born blind, I can't see. Not only can I not see, I've worked very, very hard throughout my life. I managed to get a job, I managed to get married, I had children. But within the last month, I lost my job, my wife left me, and she took the children with her. And I've got nothing left. I've got nothing left to live for. So the man, whose job it was to patrol, said to him, 1 second. I want you to know something. I have a magic power, and I can give you the power of sight. The man looked at him and says, what are you talking about? He said, no, really, I do. And he pulled out a magic wand, or he did whatever it was that he did. And he went, shh, and suddenly this man could see. And suddenly he could see he was right on the edge of a cliff, and he sort of jumped back, and then he saw the sky, and he saw the birds, and he saw everything around him. And he jumped with glee, and he gave the man a massive hug, and he ran down the stairs and was gone. A few weeks later, as this magician is patrolling the top of the tower, he sees the same man standing at the edge of the tower. And he runs up to him. He says, 1 second. Did the magic not work? Can you not see anymore? And the man said, no, I can see. But I'm still not married, and my children haven't come back, and I don't have a job. So what's the point of being here anymore? What a powerful story. When I heard this 25 years ago, it really, really hit me. You see, after last week's session, when I told the story of this bone stuck down my throat, many people contacted me. I was contacted by many people, and they shared with me personal stories that they'd been through. I can't really share them with you because they're too personal. But there was one thing that we saw throughout these stories. It was about being grateful about something to do with health, but only when they were about to lose it, or when they were comparing themselves to somebody else who just lost it. This is weird, the way we are as human beings. We've been designed this way. In fact, just from an eye, for those of you who know I'm an optometrist, from an eye perspective, we'll often get people coming in complaining of floaters. They've suddenly got a new floater that's floating around in their eye. And what's magnificent about our body and the way we've been designed is that within about 3 months, they stop seeing that floater anymore. And it's not that the floater's gone. If I was to look inside their eye, I would still see that piece of fibrous tissue floating around inside their vitreous. But what's happened is the brain has got used to it and doesn't see it anymore. I'll tell you something else, amazing thing. They did an experiment. What you may not know is that when we look at something, we're not looking at the same place the whole time. Our eyes are making very slight movements, very slight adjustments. They created the machine based on a feedback of the position of the eye, where the person was looking at an image, but wherever the person looked, the image followed them around exactly. Within a few minutes, the image faded because the brain wasn't seeing any contrast. It disappeared. We've been designed this way, and there's a good reason why. Because if we couldn't get used to something, we'd never be able to build good habits. We'd never be able to take a step further and achieve new greatness, new big things. So it's important. But there's a problem, and this is the problem. This is the problem. The problem is that if we get used to something, we're no longer grateful for it. Throughout this month, the month of Elul and most of Tishri, we say a psalm, LeDavid Hashem Ori. In it is a verse, a fascinating verse, right? Where King David says, there's one thing I ask from God. There's one thing I ask from Hashem. Do you know what it is? I want to live in the house of Hashem all the days of my life. And then the verse finishes like this. The verse says, and I want to visit his sanctuary. I don't get it. You want to live in the house every single day, but you want to be a visitor? But that's the point. That's exactly the point. I want to be there the whole time, but I want it to feel new to me, as if I'm a visitor, as if every single moment it's fresh. I don't know if any of you managed to do any of the challenge that we set last week, which was that every time you go to the bathroom, as you come out, you're reminded of the fact that there is a factory working inside your body. I don't know if you managed it. I'm not going to set a new challenge this week. Please try and continue doing that. You step out of the bathroom, whether you say the blessing or you don't say the blessing, that's not the point here. At that moment, you step out of the bathroom and you think for a moment, this is something that I have to thank. This is something I have to be grateful for. You want something? I'll give it to you right now. You take one breath. One breath. Do you know what happens to that breath? That air travels down to your lungs. It's dissipated among all the different, I can't remember what they're called anymore. Gosh, we're going back many, many years. All the different pathways, alveoli, thank you. All the different alveoli. And eventually that air, and it's filtered out the oxygen from the carbon dioxide, and eventually that air is transferred into the blood system. And then the red blood cells take that oxygen to all the different parts of your body. And all of those parts of your body, they need that oxygen in order to survive. And then there's another whole system called the venous system that takes those red blood cells that are now deoxygenated. They've given up that oxygen and takes them back to your heart so that they're ready for yet another pumping. That's just one breath. We say in the verse in Tehillim, in Psalms, we say, Kol haneshama tahalelka, which literally translated means every soul praises God. But the rabbis understand it to mean for every breath. The word neshama is very similar to the Hebrew word neshima. For every breath, thank God. I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful new year, an amazing, spiritual, uplifting Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the happiest day of the year. The happiest day of the year, not just because we have an opportunity to cleanse ourselves, but actually more importantly, because we have a Father in heaven who loves us so much that he gives us that opportunity. Thank you so much for joining me.